we're going to welcome to the stage someone who's a real icon of the genre, a stuntman, actor, author, producer, and if my research is to be believed, a true life ghost hunter. And hopefully we'll find out more about that in our sessions with the man today and tomorrow. I'm only 5'6", as you can see, and so for the next half hour or so, I'm prepared to be very, very intimidated by the sheer bulk, not to mention the excessive talents of our special guest. Horror Hounds, please give a big welcome to the cinema's greatest Jason Voorhees, Mr. Kane Hodder. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hi, everybody. This is an interesting venue for a panel.
Yeah, new to me as well, so yeah, we'll discover it together.
I feel like, I don't know if you ever saw something I did in, I think it was 1989. I did an appearance on a talk show in full costume, in character. It was the Arsenio Hall show. And they had a live audience kind of like this, and he brought me out. Again, I'm in character, and he said, you know, I want you to do the interview in character. I said, well, Arsenio, you realize I don't speak. Yeah, that's the point. So I went out and sat on the couch, stared at him. He asked me questions. I stared at him. It was pretty funny. It's on YouTube if you ever want to take a look, but the interesting thing was that he told me ahead of time that, he said, I know it sounds stupid, but I'm actually afraid of your character. And that is probably the wrong thing to say to me. So, because he said, I'm afraid of your character, so when you're on the show, please don't fuck with me. So, obviously I fucked with him as much as I could. At the end, I go to shake his hand to say thank you, and I pulled him towards me, and he freaked out. So it was fun. I haven't really done much of anything in costume other than the movies, and it was kind of interesting to do that. So there's a lot of crazy things on YouTube, usually of me doing something but not in costume. So.
Okay, Kane. I'd like to start here by discussing your day job, if you like, the meat and potatoes of what you do. You work as a stuntman.
Why are you sitting so far away from me? There you go.
How's that?
Yeah, sure.
I don't want you to read the questions over my shoulder.
Yes, I've been a stuntman for almost 40 years. I am now 61, and been doing stunts for, in January, it'll be exactly 40 years. And I don't know if you guys know, sorry you guys, I'm trying to make sure I engage you too. My first year in the stunt business, I got burned doing a fire stunt, almost killed me. 6 months after officially entering the stunt business. So not a great way to start a career, but it made me appreciate life, if nothing else, much more than I had at the time, because when it's almost taken from you, then you think, you know what, this is pretty cool that I'm around. So I think I changed for the better as a result of being burned, but it was a terrifically painful experience, and I didn't have proper care and stuff. But the very first thing I ever did as a professional stuntman was a TV show called Emergency. And I played, ironically, a person that had been burned on an oil refinery tower. And that was in January. In July of that year, I got burned for real. So it wasn't a great way to start a career, but I never once considered not continuing with stunts. I loved it so much, and I just loved the whole business, that it was part of my motivation to get out of the hospital and get back to work. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I'd do fire stunts again because of what had happened. But eventually I did that also, and ended up specializing in fire stunts because it's a very tricky stunt to do, and it's not one of those stunts that you just say, ah, fuck it, I'm crazy, I'll just go out and do it. Which, by the way, I always find it funny when people brag about how many bones they've broken doing stunts. Because from my point of view, if you're bragging about breaking bones doing stunts, then you're bragging about fucking up. Because the point is to do a stunt successfully, not just not give a shit what happens. So I find it funny that, you know, people like Hal Needham back in the day used to brag about, I've broken 212 bones. And I wasn't impressed by that. Doesn't mean you're any better of a stuntman. Just means you didn't do it as well. And I don't know if does anyone know the approximate number of bones that I've broken? I've been an athlete all in school and high school and played all the sports, and then 40 years of doing stunts. Do you think you could guess how many bones I've broken in my life? Just say a number.
25.
2.
7.
Oh, I heard the correct answer out there. 0. I have never broken a bone, and that's what I'm proud of, because I've done some stuff where, as I'm on the ground, I'm saying, okay, I think this time something's broken, and sure enough, nothing. And I think it's more genetic than anything, because my mom, when she was 82, I think, 81 or 82, she fell down a flight of brick stairs, about 12 steps, and tumbled down badly and didn't break a bone. So that's pretty impressive. And I think I just have good, solid genetic structure from her. And the burn is really the only time I've been seriously hurt. And I say seriously because if you can go to work the next day, then I don't consider you being injured. I mean, you may be sore as hell or whatever, but if you can work the next day, it's not an injury. A lot of other people would consider some of the stuff that's happened as an injury, but I don't really, it's all relative. And now, because of being burned, I don't really I have a very high threshold of pain, because once you go through being burned, and I received terrible care for the burn for the first 4 months, so I went through way more pain than I should have. So now, I've had minor surgeries done, my shoulders operated on, hernia and stuff, and I don't get put out for any of that. No anesthetic, because I don't find it necessary. Just a local anesthetic wherever the surgery is, but I think people overuse that stuff. So, but it's been a fun career in stunts, and I never anticipated, when I started in the stunt business, never thought I'd ever sign an autograph, first of all, because stunt people are typically in the background, and you have actors very often taking credit for something you did. Happens all the time. So that's just part of the business. You never anticipate being known for much other than a successful stunt person. So I think because of that background and that attitude going into the film business, I appreciate the fact that people do want me to sign stuff now, because I know how lucky I am. I mean, when I was first asked to play Jason by John Buechler, who directed the first movie, I felt an incredible honor. This is a character that's been around for 6 films already. So it's known around the world. Now imagine how amazing it felt to know that I was going to be the guy playing the character now. It was phenomenal. It really, I couldn't get over the fact that I was going to be Jason. So because of that, I wanted to put everything I possibly could into performing the character instead of just walking through it. And, you know, I wanted to enjoy it and put my whole heart and soul into it so that the performance would be as good as it could be. And I guess, you know, fortunately, based on that first one I did, then I did 3 more films after that as the character. So people liked what I did, and I just loved doing it. So, you know, some people go into acting because they want to be famous. And those are typically the ones that end up being assholes to work with. That's just what I've seen. The people that didn't expect it and it happens appreciate it more and are more, you know, genuine people and don't think they're big shots and stuff, so.
Okay, now from what you've said there, Kane, you were clearly a fan of the Friday the 13th series already before you got involved in it. What particularly impressed you about, if anything, about the guys who played Jason before you? And did you take anything from them, or when you came to play the part yourself, was it a purely new creation for you?
Well, I did, you know all the previous films. I had watched them as a fan. And then when I got the job, before we started filming, I watched them all again. Because even though I was a new guy playing the character, I didn't want it to be so completely different from the previous because, you know, fine, I've played the character 4 times, but I'm not the only guy that has played the character. So I wanted to maybe take little parts of previous performances that I liked. I thought in particular CJ in part 6 did a good job. He's a good buddy of mine now. And Ted White, I think, did a good job in part 4. So I kind of kept that in mind when performing. But the thing that I found that when I would watch Jason in previous movies, if he was standing and staring at someone, he almost looked like a mannequin. So I thought, what can I do to make Jason still look threatening even though he's just staring at somebody? So that's when I came up with the breathing thing. And instead of just staring like this, looks scary enough, but then when you're doing that, I thought, when I looked in the mirror while I was in the costume, I thought, oh shit, that looks like he's about to do something horrible. And just like he's ready to explode. So those kind of things I just added to what I had seen in the past, and you know, and then in doing the films, there would be things that once I played the character once and I was doing it a second time, I felt I had a little more say-so in what the character should do and shouldn't do. So in part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, there was a scene written in the script where shortly after Jason looks at the billboard and recognizes the mask on the billboard, turns around, he walks away from there and sees a dog threatening him, barking at him, and he kicks the dog. And I thought, no, that doesn't feel like something Jason would do. He's a cruel motherfucker to people. But I never saw him, you know, purposely harming an animal. I would think he would identify with an animal. So I told the director, we're not doing that scene. He said, what? It's in the script. And I said, Jason wouldn't do that. And that was a risky thing to say at the time because it was only my second time playing the role, but I didn't think it fit. And eventually when we didn't shoot that and the director realized, you know what, you're right. It was gratuitous, and you know, I'm not against gratuitous violence, obviously, but it just didn't seem to fit the character, so we didn't do it, and he agreed later that that was the right choice. And you know, later on in one of the movies, I think maybe it was Jason Goes to Hell, the director comes over to me and says, okay, so now when the girl runs out of the house at the beginning, Jason's going to come running out. And, well, oh, wait a minute. He's going to what? He's going to come running out. I said, no, he's not, actually. I don't think Jason ever runs. I know it's ridiculous that he always catches everybody even though he doesn't run. They're ripping ass through the woods. He's walking, still catches them. And I always say, you know, a couple reasons for that. These are Jason's woods, so he knows the shortcuts. And they're always going to trip and fall, give me a chance to catch up. So even if it didn't make sense, once I started playing the character, which is part 7, I think Jason was more of a zombie, kind of a dead, walking Jason. And I just didn't see him running. Maybe if I had played the character earlier on when he was really a human, then I would have felt differently. But by the time I did it, I just never thought Jason would run. Which, interesting, because, sorry, you asked me a question, I go on and on forever, but...
That's why you're here.
You guys know that there's a video game coming out soon. Friday the 13th video game. Yeah, I'm very happy too. They asked me to do the motion capture for Jason for the game, and I was honored that they felt that. The producer said there's no other person that we would want to do the motion capture. So while doing the motion capture, I was put into a little bit of a dilemma, because I was told that you're going to be able to play as different versions of Jason, but I'm going to do the motion capture for all of the Jason moves in the game. But you can play as part 7, as I believe part 2, part 8, I think, and maybe even part 3, for sure, part 3. So the producer, one of the guys mainly directing the motion capture, said, now here's a little bit of a situation here. I know you refused to run as Jason, but now what if someone is playing as part 3 Jason, where Jason did run in the movie? And I was like, oh shit, that's right. So I actually, during the motion capture, did some shots running, because that's how Richard Brooker portrayed the character in part 3. And if you're part 3 Jason, you should be able to run. So there was kind of an odd thing that I never thought I would run as Jason, but I did. And it's because, you know, that's what he did. And if you're playing that version, I think you need to keep it consistent.
Okay, now I'm sure you in the audience have got loads of questions.